reptiles. They're mean, they're green, and they eat a lot of bugs. Most of the time. And I know the question everyone's asking themselves at home right now is, Dakota, how much does it cost to feed all of those reptiles? Nobody's asking that. Don't you worry your pretty little heads, because old Dakota's gonna tell you all about how much it costs to run this business. Stick around, let a homeless looking man teach you some things, and subscribe if you're new. Would love to have you around. Let's get into it. Alright, let's get to the next set. Huh. I know what you boys must be thinking at home, and that's, Dakota, how much could bugs really cost? Because, like, they gotta be cheap, because you can find them, like, outside, anywhere you go. There's bugs. We don't like bugs, so selling bugs, that can't cost anything, right? Wrong. Bugs are very expensive. They cost a lot of money. Why would you ask that they cost a lot of money? I don't know, but God, do they cost me a lot of money. If we take a little old gander down over here, this is where I keep them all. Now this is one for the smaller bugs, but they've actually gotten big, so I'm gonna start switching them over. And then here's where I keep all the big bugs. At any given point in time, we have anywhere around 2,000 to 5,000 crickets on hand over here at dbcb Exotics. If you guys probably notice, you hear some chirping every now and then. That's this. That's this right here. That's about 3,000 crickets chirping every time, every night. In order to obtain 3,000 to 5,000 crickets at any given point in time, I spend somewhere around $100 to $130 to get them shipped over to me. Now, if you have someone local, it might make yourself a little bit cheaper. I don't really have guys that are local to me. I usually use Josh's Frogs, and it kind of costs what it costs. But okay, Dakota, you know, that's a lot of money, but that's 5,000 crickets. I mean, that's got to survive you, like, months on end. You must have crickets for days. I do not have crickets for days. Now, these crickets usually last me somewhere around pretty much 3 weeks, actually. I don't think I can stretch it to 4 weeks. Usually lasts me about 3 weeks, sometimes 2 to 3 because it's breeding season now, and most of that goes to these little shenanigans right here, and I'll show you how much I use to just one feeding with these guys right now. Over here at dbcb Exotics, we use only the utmost premium gadgets in order to service our reptiles over here, and that leads us to this nifty invention, which is called, I believe we are referring to this as the jar. It's a little complicated, so just hold your horses. I'll explain a little bit further. This is actually a 3-step method. Step 1 is obtaining the jar. We did pretty good on that part. Now we get into step 2, loading the jar. Now to load your jar, you're actually going to need the second invention, and that's going to be paper towel rolls. Crickets are jumping everywhere. These paper towel rolls are awesome. It's eco-friendly, so you know we're saving the environment by reusing, recycling, and renewing, whatever the motto is. And pretty much I just take 2 paper towel rolls and I put crickets in it. That brings us to step number 2, filling the crickets. Now I use about the first line. You fill it to the first line of crickets, and that's how you know you have enough crickets to feed your tokay geckos. Feeding measurements may vary depending on size of tokay geckos, the amount of tokay geckos, and the amount of crickets, and the size of the crickets that are in the jar. With all this in hand, looks like we're ready to feed. Whoa! Hold your horses there, buckaroo. We still got one more step, and that's going to be making sure that they grow big and strong with vitamins. Vitamin supplements are very important for geckos to build strong, healthy bodies and big bones. If you don't, then you get messed up geckos and would have metabolic bone disease, and that's something you don't want. So I pretty much you just put the powder in there, you give her a little twirl, and then you get ghost crickets. And ghost crickets, remember folks, ghost crickets, they're much better than regular crickets because they're spooky. Then for step number 4, which I totally forgot, and that's putting the crickets in with the tokay geckos. Now, I've seen some people say they like feed their tokays like 10 crickets at a time. I don't know how they're measuring that, if they have any type of quantity going on. I pretty much dump a good amount of crickets in there, they eat them, they get big, and they lay eggs. So that method works for me, and I'm sure it might or might not work for you. Now, I know you guys must be thinking to yourself, Dakota, this has really been complicated. I don't think you spelled it out well enough for me. I'm afraid I'm accidentally going to dump crickets all over my floor instead of in the tanks. I'm really more of a visual learner, and hey, I understand that. I, too, am a visual learner, so I'll give you guys a brief demonstration on how to properly get this job done. Now, remember, the key is to get the lid open and then dump some crickets in, just like so. I dumped okay. You can't get it right every time, am I right? some point in this process, you may come along the fact that you might have a little bit of extras. And remember, folks, never put crickets that you dusted back in there. These guys pretty much will suffocate in about 24 to 48 hours because they're filled with calcium dust. It's not good. It hurts them, but they're food, so I don't know if it matters that much to people unless you're PETA. So remember, don't put them back because if crickets die, they release a pheromone that kills more crickets. That's usually why a lot of people have dead crickets. Pretty simple thing is just open your standing eye enclosure right behind you. Everyone should have the standard standing eye enclosure if they're feeding crickets, and then just dump the crickets in there. And then you're good to go, see? There might be some folks asking yourself, Dakota, if the crickets cost so much money, just breed your own feeders. Come on, you silly dumpling, you panini head. Just breed your own stuff and you'll be good to go. Well, you might be surprised to think that I did that right here. We have two different roaches. We have red runners and we have lobster roaches that I've been breeding for about a year now. And lo and behold, after I got a good colony of lobster roaches going, it turns out the tokays actually don't like the lobster roaches whatsoever. They pretty much bury in the substrate, they populate, and they make a big mess, and the tokays literally never touch them. So, a year of breeding lobsters, and there's like, I don't know, 5 out of the 100 animals that will actually like them and eat them. It's an important tip I can tell you guys, if what goes in the geckos comes out of the geckos, and it usually means that it comes out on the front door of their enclosures. Why do you just constantly do this to me? You know that I have to clean that, and yet every time. It's a bioactive substrate, and yet you do it in the one spot that they can't reach, and it just... I just want to know why. Just as the wise Billy Mays once said, wait, there's more, and that's because there's more bugs. Now, we don't just feed crickets and roaches over here. We also get a number of worms, mealworms and superworms, and some waxworms as well. Now, the cool things I love about these day geckos, and I'll forgive them for pooping on the cage because they do this really cute thing. I don't know if they'll do it on camera, so we'll see. But you actually just take this. You get yourself a little wormy, like we'll do here, and then I'll show you guys a cool trick. Try this at home. I'm a professional, so you just get your little wormy. And then they do absolutely nothing. Wow, really cool, right? Oh my god, he's about to escape. My god, you just can't find educational content like this anymore, am I right? We do mealworms. We also have these little cool dudes right here. Now, if you take a look, if I can find one that's actually alive. These are waxworms. They're very fatty and they're good at packing on weight. However, don't feed them too much or else you'll get fatty liver disease, and that means the reptile's liver becomes obese, and that's not good because bad stuff will happen. However, you can feed it as a small treat. They really enjoy them, and if I can pick one up with the tongue, if I can pick one up... Oh, that's a moth. Don't worry, friend. I'm gonna put you in a little bioactive, cool enclosure. Oh, you'll be fine. There's no monster waiting to eat you in there. I was literally looking in here for like, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds trying to find him, and then I found him. He's right there. We checked the list, and we checked it twice, and it turns out Yoshi was a good boy this year, so we're gonna give him 1 waxworm. Go on, buddy. No, it's food. It's... Why are you getting so upset? It's food. It's your treat. I dropped it. Well... It's there if you want it. Now, this is just the pinnacle of gratefulness if I've ever seen it. Turn a 10-minute video into around a 20-second one. It costs somewhere around $150 to $200 a month to feed everything. This includes the monitor lizards, all the meat and stuff that goes into that, the rodents and whole prey, the crested gecko food. We get in multiple flavors of that, including growth and breeder, and some other nice flavors like watermelon, which is just a fantastic thing if I do say so myself. And then lastly, the multiple insects, the crickets, the waxworms, the superworms. God, why are superworms so expensive? Some months it's a little bit cheaper and some months it's a little bit more expensive, and that's just the way it goes. Now, while some may argue that this video was completely pointless when I could have just said the thing I just said 5 seconds ago and saved them 10 minutes of their lives, I really do believe that the whole value that you really get out of this experience is really the joy and laughter around the journey that we had today. You guys did have joy and laughter, right? Right? There we got it, folks. Another one in the book, How to Feed Your Tokay Gecko. I'm glad I could help you guys out with some of these things. Psst. Yo, it was how much feeders does it cost to run this thing? It had literally nothing to do with tokay geckos. I don't know why you were so hell-bent on the tokay gecko part. It was absolutely redacted. It didn't make any sense for this video. Huh. Well, you can't win them all, am I right? As always, folks, thank you so much for consuming yet another media thing that I posted on the internet. I appreciate every last one of you. For more shenanigans, make sure to check out the links down below where you can join Patreon. It's just like this, but you have to pay for it. And as always, my happy campers, thank you so much for joining this dusty trail that we call the Oregon Trail. I appreciate every last one of you. Until next time, we'll do the salute. Goodbye.